You look at Haskins through 11 starts, and again, that's all it's been. Total QBR of 29.0, which is the 6th worst for any quarterback with at least 10 starts since the stat was introduced in 2006. I will quickly say there are a lot of extenuating circumstances, but that's just my opinion. Let's hear what these guys have to say. Lewis, I will start with you. What was your reaction to this decision yesterday?
Look, I think we know that when Dwayne Haskins was drafted by the Washington football team, we knew that Dwayne individually was a guy who was very young in his development still and needed to go to a stable organization that had everybody pulling behind him and everyone, well, I should say everyone pushing him from behind and everyone supporting him and everyone in concert and in unison as far as providing an environment and a structure from which this young man could then build from and realize his vast, enormous individual talent. That has not been the case from day one. He has been set up to fail from day one. Now, that does not absolve Dwayne of anything, as far as his responsibility that has helped lead to this point. But there is no question that the foundation has not been set for him to succeed at this point in his career. He's had 2 different coaching staffs. He's had to go through an offseason now, as Ron reported to, that he didn't have a time to really dig into a playbook that he was used to because obviously they changed coaching staffs. He didn't have any time to get together with his teammates in a normal environment. And now they're making decisions based on the short term in terms of they believe in a putrid division, this is the best move for them to make as far as their ability to compete. And that right now is basically taking him, Dwayne Haskins, in his development and just throwing it into the wolves right now and saying, hey, look, we're not necessarily concerned about you and your development. You're not my guy anyway. I didn't draft you. I'm not really responsible for developing you. So we're just going to let you sit over here while we try to compete in a division that right now looks like it's the worst in football. And unfortunately, that's just the way the league goes. Quite honestly, I think he needs to move on and get to a better organization where he has better teaching and better surroundings. Otherwise, his career is going to be messed up. It's going to be adversely affected for sure.
I'm so glad you said all of that because it's exactly what I think, and it means a lot more coming from you. Why don't we hear from Damien Woody? What do you think?
Well, listen, I agree exactly what Lewis just talked about. I mean, the Washington football team failed Dwayne Haskins. You're talking about a guy who started 12 games in college at Ohio State, was highly productive, and then comes into a situation where the owner is the guy that drafted him, not the coach. Jay Gruden at the time was a coach on the hot seat, didn't want Dwayne Haskins, and already walking through the door, he was in conflict. Jay Gruden gets fired. In comes Ron Rivera. That's not his guy. He didn't draft him. He doesn't owe him anything. Has no loyalty towards him. And the thing that I found interesting was Ron Rivera was talking yesterday, and he said he had been contemplating this for a while. We're only a quarter way through the season, so if you've been thinking about this for a while, why would you put Dwayne Haskins out there in the first place? So I just think all around it's just been a disaster. And also, speaking of Ron Rivera, he had the opportunity to get Cam Newton this offseason, but he decided to go with Kyle Allen, which I find interesting considering the fact that Cam Newton is up in New England balling right now. So we're going to see how all of this is going to unfold with the Washington football team.
And so we have that their short-term future is they're going to try and win a bad division. Shefty, what does the long-term future now look like for a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who was spectacular in the one season he played at Ohio State and was a first-round pick, a year and a half ago?
Well, we've had 3 head coaches for him in 20 games. And so that is just another example of it's not where you go in the draft, it's what franchise you go to and how that sets you up. His future right now is up in the air because we don't know how Kyle Allen's going to play, if Alex Smith is going to be called on, what's going to happen at that particular point in time. But again, clearly they're turning over the franchise to Kyle Allen. And it's not really a surprise. I think Ron Rivera was very transparent about this, surprisingly transparent. Last week, he called Dwayne Haskins into his office on Monday, said he needed more from him, said that he needed him to be better. And if he wasn't, then they were going to make the change. They lost another game to Baltimore on Sunday, and on cue, the very next week, they make the change to Kyle Allen. I just want to add one other thing. Green got a text this morning. There was another player that has tested positive in Tennessee. So that is a setback for that organization in terms of reopening that facility, in terms of the game that's being played on Sunday. And I think the game between the Titans and Bills now is obviously very much in jeopardy.
You can see from the expressions on the faces there of both Lewis and D. Wood how incredibly important that is. That is one of the spots, maybe the most significant spot people have their eye on in the NFL right now. I'll remind anyone who's watching, the Titans game last week against Pittsburgh has already been rescheduled to their what would have been their bye week coming up mid-season. So if they can't play this weekend, then something relatively drastic. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.